Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 336 of the Stacey West podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and today I'm joined by Charlie. How are you doing, mate? Live from Gibraltar once again.
I am very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm still hurting a little bit after last night. It's not a physical pain, but it's seemingly something that is creeping in at the moment, which I don't like. But what have you been up to? Let's try and put off the inevitable for a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Let's not talk about football at all. The whole podcast. I tried getting away with that on Saturday, and guys didn't let me. I wonder if you will. No, look, I'm busy enough working away. To be fair, I had the day off on Monday, which was very nice. It was a nice welcome, just day off. Taking some days before Christmas, and it just feels like everything now is all systems go to Christmas, which is never. I don't know. I'm not that much of a Christmassy person. I've got to be honest. Never really have been, but I'm looking forward to it this year. Doing it with some friends. We've got a Christmas dinner booked and such, so I'm looking forward to that. And then tonight, I'm staying here.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't have enough time off work to be able to come back. I'm working Christmas Eve and then the 27th, so only Christmas Day, Boxing Day back. So yeah, we're doing a few bits, and then tonight after the podcast, I am off to play bingo again. Honestly, I'm deep into my bingo phase. Grab a granny night. Casino is ready. Me dabber is out.
He's got his dabber out. Bloody hell!
Live on YouTube. Well, actually, shit, we could get demonetized for this.
Oh dear. So, but yeah, no, I think it's one of them things, isn't it? At the moment, it's Christmas is looming. As much as I don't like thinking about Christmas before the 1st of December, you've got to. Yeah, unfortunately, we also have to think about talking about football when we've had essentially the same thing to say 2 games running. Away at Wrexham last night, Lincoln played really well. I thought it was a really solid performance, and the only thing that was missing were any points whatsoever. Where do we start? I mean, I suppose we should probably start with the lineup. I'll be honest, I was a little bit surprised to see Paudie O'Connor in the starting 11, given that he seemed to barely scrape through on Saturday from the sounds of it. But that gave me a bit of hope, because I went on one of the Wrexham podcasts and I did say that if we've got Paudie O'Connor starting, I'd feel a little bit more confident in getting something. So yeah, obviously Wickens in goal, back 3 of Deriqua, Rowan and O'Connor, and then Ring, McGrandles, Arahan and Jeffries, and Jack Moylan, and then Cadamartri and Jova Makama up top. Interesting to see as well, though, that Adam Jackson came back onto the bench. I think Scabalo said in the post-match that he was there if we needed somebody for 20 minutes or so. So it wasn't like he was definitely going to come on after 60 minutes and get half an hour. But good to see Jacko back in the squad, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it was also great, like you say, to see Paudie starting. I was doing a podcast with Chris last night. We're doing our new EFL podcast, which you can all take a listen to, by the way. And we were just sat there recording it last night, and we were still going whilst the teams got announced. And I just immediately messaged in the private chat, O'Connor starting. And it's like, it just gives you that immediate little boost, doesn't it, when you've got O'Connor starting and then Jacko on the bench as well, and you think, all right, we've potentially had a couple of questions defensively recently as well, but when you've kind of got them two, and then Sean Rowan, by the way, who, we spoke in our group chat last night, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Just about how much of an underrated part of this team he is. And he is just outstanding. He was again last night. But to have like those 3 either back or almost ready to be back and playing together again is always kind of got that nice feeling with it. And then, the other changes, obviously, Ben House having to miss out through suspension, but Bailey Cadamartri came in, which is, again, a solid, he's a solid enough replacement for Ben House. And, we hope that maybe he could go ahead and get goal. We hope that literally anybody would get a goal yesterday, but we'll get on to that. And yeah, obviously Jack on the bench, again, great news. But also, I just want to point out Lewis Montsman not being on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
From what I can gather, not exactly too much of a surprise. Okay, I had this discussion again with somebody last night because he was like, oh, does that mean he's injured again, sort of thing. As far as I'm aware, with Lewis Montsman, literally everything is about managing minutes. We're never going to be seeing him at the moment, Saturday, Tuesday, week in, week out. So to not see him on the bench, I don't really think it's that much of a surprise. I don't really think it means too much. And I also believe he was in the away end last night as well. I thought I saw a photo online.
Okay.
Or was at least at the ground, which is, again, another nice positive.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, Lewis is, if he's not on the pitch or if he's not on the bench, he's probably somewhere in the stands with the fans. But yeah, look, I think managing Lewis's minutes is obviously key to the plan at the moment. And yeah, Flossie Top Tier says, I haven't felt as disappointed as I did last night. Chance after chance without goals is not a good lead into Christmas. We will come on to that as the podcast goes on. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, I thought it was just a really strong performance. I don't think Wrexham had that many chances. We closed them down really effectively. I think we pressed them in all the right areas, won the ball back high up the pitch. But it was helped early doors, let's be honest, with at the time I thought it felt like a soft yellow card for Brunt. But then looking back at it, I mean, it was essentially the first foul of the game. And the ref immediately gets his card out of his pocket. But that gave me a little bit of hope that maybe it would open up that right-hand side for us a little bit, because all of a sudden you've got a central defender on that left-hand side that isn't going to be able to be anywhere near as combative as he normally would be. And it did show a couple of times. I think he backed off maybe once or twice, and we looked like we might have an opening. And it will be not pivotal, but I think there's something that a bit later on that we'll talk about with Osborne as well. But yeah, I mean, it looked like just a solid start. I thought we would, really good in that first sort of 20, 25 minutes or so. Kept their chances down to pretty much nothing. But from that free kick where Brunt got booked, the ball comes across and Paudie O'Connor gets the only shot on target in the first half from either side. With a decent enough header, but it was a fairly solid save from Burton, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. In terms of Lewis Brunt getting that yellow, we're going to come on to talk about Lewis Brunt and the fact he shouldn't have been on the pitch, but we're going to get there because, I'm not bitter at all. But yeah, that first yellow, probably a little bit soft. It seemed that the referee was maybe going to lay down a bit of a marker, but then I think there was a bit of a question mark about some inconsistencies then throughout the rest of the game, which again, we will kind of get to as we move through the 90. But honestly, that first chance, it laid down a marker from us about, okay, if you're going to give us an opportunity like that, we're going to at least try our hardest to take it. And to be honest, I thought it was a nice header, straight to the goalkeeper. Unfortunately, that happens, put a kind of sort of back to goal glancing header.
He did make him work, though. To be fair, he did.
He did. No,
yeah, it wasn't like some of Palmer's in the second half that were literally straight into. It wasn't catching practice. He did make him work, and from where he was as well, to get that amount of power in it, I thought it was a really decent chance.
Well, this is the thing, and I think it just shows that don't give us a set piece with those sorts of opportunities, because it will not end well for you. As simple as that. We'll be able to go ahead and create at the bare minimum a shot on target from it, and that again kind of showed Wrexham nice and early on exactly what it was that we meant.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, I think there were a couple more chances for us going forward. I think a special shout has to go to Dom Jeffries, who I thought was exceptional in that first half, and his night I think was probably summed up just before that Jack Moylan shot that flashed wide of the post. If you watch that back, there is the pass back from the Wrexham player. I think it was Rowan who was pressing down in the corner. The ball then comes back from the Wrexham player. Dom Jeffries just took the lad out of the game completely. The ball comes to him, and it was similar to Arahan's touch on Saturday for Dariqua's goal. his first goal, where he cushions it, takes it to one side, and just the Wrexham players running past him and just completely takes him out of the game. But then the ball gets crossed in, a little bit of pinball. Eventually, Ibrahim lays it off to Jack Moylan, who swipes at it a little bit, and then it goes wide. I think the commentary on Sky at the time said it was at least a yard wide. I mean, that was a couple of inches wide, if that. It was a really, really close effort, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. And again, it just showed some nice, some really strong early intent. And I think that, to be honest, it's the story of the game. There was some brilliant chances. And honestly, I thought the way that we were playing was really, really strong. But then, at the end of the day, we always knew what kind of a threat that Wrexham would have, more or less at any given moment. But it didn't matter. The way that we were moving the ball through the thirds, especially in the first half, was really, really strong, and it was really impressive. And honestly, there were some standout individual performances yesterday. Mentioned earlier on Sean Rowan. You've already mentioned Dom Jeffries. Tendai Darika actually had quite a good game, even though it's going to just be marred by obviously what happened later on. And Ethan Aaron just showing class in midfield again, which obviously then just makes the whole thing a lot harder to talk about overall, doesn't it? But like I think there were some really strong chances. And obviously we knew exactly what Wrexham could do whenever they move the ball forward, which is always a worry, even though we did try to limit that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think you say that, although to me it only felt like really Wrexham had it's Phil Mitchell and young Ben Mitchell. I don't know who's who, but yeah, we'll take it.
I'm Phil, I'm assuming.
But yeah, look, I mean, it felt to me like Wrexham's only real chance of the first half came from what was an incredibly soft free kick, which we'll come on to the ref in just a second, but McLean puts the ball across, and it was Brunt with the header. I think actually, when you watch it back, a Wrexham player is going straight into Brunt as well, which probably put him off target. But yeah, I mean, for that to clatter against the bar, I would have felt really hard done by if that had gone in. Mainly because, again, we were on top. We were the better team by quite a distance in the first half. But mainly because that free kick was not a free kick. It was, Ring gets the ball and the guy continues to run. It's like, well, that's it's not a free kick. And yeah, let's talk about the ref for just a second, because I said in the Stacey West Discord that it looked like we were maybe getting a bit of consistency from the referee, and I think it was potentially taken as a positive at the time. It wasn't. Like we ask for consistency from a ref on a weekly basis when on the podcast. When we if ever we got a complaint about a referee, it's usually because they're inconsistent. I thought last night he was consistent, but he was giving away so many soft fouls. Like it just seemed like we were guilty of it, because if a player went over for us, there was a free kick. If a player went over for Wrexham, there was a free kick. It just seemed like the way to win a free kick was just, oh, cool, I've fallen over, and the ref hasn't seen the contact, so yep, cool, free kick, easy job. And it was happening both ways, and I could see why some people were potentially getting frustrated. But yeah, I just thought he didn't have the best of games, including one big decision that we will come on to shortly. But overall, I don't think there were too many negatives from that first half. The only two really were Bailey Cadamarteri and Jovan not taking the chances.
Well, isn't that funny? Look, there isn't too many things that we can really kind of dissect in a negative way from the first half. Again, we were creating opportunities, and we were playing really strongly, especially in that middle third of the pitch. I thought we were outstanding for especially the first half yesterday, considering we had less possession. I mean, the first half we had 39% possession, but yet we still managed to get 136 accurate passes off. That's a good few, that as well. And expected goals were at 0.5. All right, so that means we shouldn't have necessarily scored a goal in the first half, but it showed that we're creating chances. And a first half away at second in the division, Wrexham, a side who are one of the favourites to be in and around fighting for the top six. It's a real positive outlook. And, there are a lot of positives that we can take from that first half, which, again, I'm more than happy for. 13 touches in the opposition box in the first half. There were games under Mark Kennedy where we weren't even getting that in a whole game. So there's plenty to be happy about, but what are we lacking? Well, we'll go on to that in the second half.
Yeah, so I mean, it was, it was I didn't even, to be honest, I was about to say if it was frustrating. I didn't feel that frustrated at halftime. Like, it just felt, it was one of those where, like, okay, right, we've had a decent first half. All we need to do is improve decision making and chance taking in the second half, and we'll be all right. It didn't feel like it was going to be a game that we would have to chase, because it didn't feel like Wrexham were able to put that much on us, to be fair. And I know when we did the preview, spoke to Rich from Rob Ryan Red, and he was saying that, expect to have a lot of the ball, and we would expect you to be dominant in the possession, and we will try and win it back off you. And I said to him, well, that's kind of how we like to play football a lot of the time. And it didn't come to pass. I think the possession stats ended up in Wrexham's favour by something of a distance. I can't remember the exact stats. Where are we?
56-44.
There we go. Yeah. So, it wasn't overwhelming, but I mean, it was definitely not what we expected from that perspective. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it was just a showing of, right, we're not having the chances that we're creating are fine. I don't think there were any majorly clear-cut chances in the first half. But, when we have, again, we'll start talking about the second half in a sec, but when you get to the end of a game and it's like, okay, right, we've had 14 shots and 1 on target, then, yeah, we'll have that discussion. So let's move into the second half then. It kind of continued in the same vein, didn't it? We weren't 100% dominant, but I didn't really feel like we were in any danger of conceding. Plenty created, nothing overly clear-cut. Pordy did have a chance cleared off the line by Ollie Palmer. I think it was... Off the line is probably not quite right. I think it was about at least a couple of yards out, but it looked very, very close at the time, and I think maybe a little bit more power on that, potentially. I don't know. You can't criticise that because, Pordy's getting forward for set pieces, which is what he does and what he does very well. I think he's probably added to his unlikely stat of having the most touches in the opposition penalty area again after last night. But yeah, I mean, I didn't feel in danger for large chunks of that second half, did you?
No, and I think the first 15 minutes of the second half, it looked like the game was potentially going to just peter out a little bit. There wasn't really too many massive opportunities too early on. Just seemed like two sides who were starting to just figure each other out a little bit more. I would still probably say that we had the slight upper hand, but we maybe weren't playing quite as fluid, free-flowing football as we were in the first half, and we weren't really creating quite as many opportunities, but, neither were Wrexham. So was happy enough with like the first 10, 15 minutes. And then it just seemed to spark into life a lot more, didn't it? Further up from that point. And obviously, a good part of that is down to, the chances that we were getting. But then it was also very much down to the big chance. I'm not even calling it a chance. It's not a chance that Wrexham got. They got
it was an unfortunate moment.
It was, do you know what? I am never praising a player on the podcast again because did that on Sunday. And then look at what happened yesterday. Same diary equal a lot. It's, everybody's seen it. A friend of mine messaged me immediately after, obviously, the own goal, which we'll touch on properly in a moment. But a friend of mine messaged me immediately after saying, God, 2 goals at the weekend and another tonight. He's on fire. Obviously trying to take the mick out of me. And it was just heartbreaking. The ball comes in from the left. He's just caught, flat-footed. It hits him into the back of the net. And it's, do you know what? You cannot bloody write it, can you? You really can't.
I mean, I think the thing is, like, when the ball is put in with the pace it was from McLean.
Yeah,
It's a clever cross. He's putting it in a dangerous spot, and I think Tendai's just got his foot in slightly wrong, and he's missed it with his right foot, and it's hit the back of his left foot and gone in. Yeah. I just felt at that point you go, okay, yeah, same old story now. What we got to do? And I really did feel for him because he was up until that point and beyond that point. I thought again he was excellent last night. I've seen some people saying that he was crap after the goal had gone. I was like, you can't say that he's been crap because of one moment when the rest of the game he's been superb. Yeah, it was just really, really unfortunate. And I think the thing is because he is who he is, he probably bounced back quicker than some of the other players would. Like his experience is not, his understanding of the game. It's like other players might have maybe let that get to them a little bit more, but I don't think he did last night. I think he recovered very well from that. And there was a couple of instances where I think late on, I think McLean got on the end of a long ball and Derica was absolutely sprinting to get it back, and he put in a really good challenge to dispossess him. Yeah, I mean, overall, like the goal aside, I think again we had a really strong second half. You mentioned in the first, you mentioned when talking about the first half, Ethan Arahan was on form again, and he was pulling the strings again. Conor McGrandles I thought was excellent last night. Dom Jeffries was obviously mentioned. I thought he was fantastic. Sean Rowan, you said, I am so happy that we have Sean Rowan in our side at the moment, because you said that you used the word underrated, and I think that's probably fair because similar to how Conor McGrandles was when he came in on loan towards the end of last season, when he's not in the side, you suddenly realise what you're missing. But when he's in the side, you don't necessarily notice it, if that makes sense. And I think maybe with Sean Rowan, we're seeing that a little bit. I mean, obviously he's got elements to his game that you do see quite obviously, but yeah, I just thought he was fantastic last night. But then it was sort of after that midfield point, it was the meme of somebody drawing a horse and it says like it's got the segments of a horse, and it's like an immaculately drawn horse, a slightly worse one, or all three are immaculate. It's a bit like that at the moment. We've got the goal, we've got the keeper, we've got a defense, we've got our midfield, and they're all immaculately drawn pictures of horses. And then the final bit is just a stick figure. And I know that's really harsh, but it feels like that at the moment. But again, let's come on to maybe the bigger ones, the bigger chances of the night. I mean, so Wrexham probably had a couple more chances. I think Palmer had a couple of headers that Wickens easily saved, and then he absolutely volleyed one into the car park, which was the Ollie Palmer that we all know and love, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But then we're chasing the game, and there are three talking points, I think, three big chances. The first one for Jovan, he goes through, and Gaz said it in his write-up, and I think it's probably fair. It is a toe poke, but you've got to get that on target. I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than like that has to hit the target. If that goes in, the game completely changes and we come away from that game with something. I don't know if it would have been all 3 points or just the one, but if that's on target, it's in. And unfortunately, it seems to be something that we're saying relatively frequently at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's such a difficult kind of thing to discuss, isn't it? Do you know? So just on that chance, first of all, got to be putting it on target. Literally has to be putting it on target. I understand position, and I'm going to defend him. I'm going to defend, one or two of the others maybe a little bit more, but that one can't be putting that wide. You just can't. Yeah. And then it kind of comes onto the whole conversation of Jovan. And Jovan last night, first of all.
I was going to say, let's if we have the conversation, we'll have the conversation about the game first. We'll get the game out of the way, and the second half of the show we'll come on to Jovan and strikers in general, I think. But I don't think he had the best of games last night, and that's probably a bit of an understatement.
Yeah, look, I want to, first of all, not say that he had an awful game. He wasn't missing or anything like that. He was able to help us in creating some opportunities and running the flanks. But he's a striker, and there's only so much that we can very much defend. And it's not just defending for defending's sake. It's not trying to sort of kiss up to the club or anything like that and just defending players left, right, and centre. But it's also not going the total the other way, which again, obviously, is something we'll touch on in a moment. But then there was the second opportunity as well. It got blocked, and I don't think this one's quite as bad.
Yeah, I was going to say the second one, it comes over the top, and I think it's an awkward bounce. I mean, the question that some people will probably asking is, should he let it bounce? Should he just hit that on the volley? But of course, the problem is if he does hit it on the volley and he misses it, he's done wrong as well. So I don't know. I think the first one, like you say, you've got to get that on target. The second one, by the time it's bounced, the defender's got across and he's got himself muddled up with his feet again. I was annoyed about that, but not quite as annoyed as I was with the first one.
I 100% agree. That second one, like I said, I can't turn around and say that he's got to at least be doing something like that. Still probably got to get it on target, or at least work the goalkeeper in some way. And again, it's just the frustration because he's getting into the areas and getting those opportunities, which in itself is brilliant, by the way. I defended him earlier on in the season. I think it was away at Cambridge. He had two one-on-one opportunities and didn't score either of them.
Yep.
And I remember kind of backing him up after that and saying, look, Joe Taylor was the exact same against Derby. If you remember, He had two opportunities, one-on-one, didn't put either of them away. And many people were in the stands thinking, here we go, same old striker situation again. And now everybody's begging for him to come back, sort of thing. So I sort of was like, okay, let's bide our time with Jovan at least. He's getting into those opportunities, and that's a great thing. It'll now only be a matter of time before he puts them away. A matter of time, unfortunately, can only go on for so long. But then, leaving Jovan alone for a moment, we then had the last one, didn't we? Rob Street.
Yeah, so basically straight after Jovan's second one. I mean, one thing that I was genuinely surprised at, which I'm just going to circle back to quickly, Freddie Draper came on, but he came on for Bailey Cadamartri. And I think that was something that surprised, well, it certainly surprised me and maybe quite a few others in the fan base, where you think, surely the better player to play off of Freddie would be Bailey Cadamartri. Because if you've got Freddie to hold the play up a little bit and use his physicality, Bailey can then run in behind and, use his pace a little bit more. I don't know. It felt to me like that was potentially the wrong call. I don't know how you saw that one.
I don't know, if I'm honest. I really don't know, because if Jovan had scored that, we wouldn't be saying anything here.
Well, yeah, that's
so. I suppose. And there's also, I guess, the argument that those chances came after Cadamartri had been subbed off and Freddie was on, and those chances had still fallen to Jovan. There's no guarantee that Bailey Cadamartri would have been in the same position. We can't just kind of drop one out and drop one in, because there's a good chance that Bailey would have been in a totally different position and not ready there to take the chance like Jovan was, which might have worked out better, might not have done. So do I think it was the wrong decision? No. Do I think it was the right decision? No. I just think it was a decision. And it's going to be one of those, it's just going to be one of those decisions that can be debated. There are going to be, but the problem is, we're talking about in hindsight.
Yeah.
At the time, you can definitely see positives to both of them staying on the pitch, or either of them staying on the pitch with Freddie. Jesus, at that point, I could have seen a bonus of taking one of the midfielders or one of the defenders off and putting Freddie on for them, and just having a frigging three up top and hoping for the best at that point. But there's so many kind of different decisions within that, and also don't 100% know what Bailey Calamartri's fitness levels were like at that point in the game. So, like I say, although I'm quite happy to question the decision, I can't just turn around and say that it was wrong.
No, but I mean, it's easy to say it's wrong when it doesn't work, isn't it? It's
of course.
It's just one of those things. But okay, so yeah, then let's come on to that one, because straight after Joven's second miss gets taken off, Rob Street comes on. And you think, okay, Rob's got a chance to prove himself now. He's got a chance to force his way into the first team picture for the league in a permanent, well, maybe a permanent basis if he starts doing well. And it's another one where when it happens, you look at it, you go, I'm sorry, but you should be hitting the target from there. I know the defender comes across him.
The
defender does come across him, and it maybe, if he'd have hit the target, I think he probably would have at least forced a corner, because the defenders come right across him as he takes the shot. But he's just dragged it wide. And I don't think there was really anybody near him either. It was just one of those head in hands moments where you watch it and you just go, God's sake, it's not going to happen, is it?
I'm going to defend Rob Street the most out of any of those chances there, because his body's slightly facing away from goal, because he's facing a little bit more towards the corner flag and having to kind of use his foot to bring it back towards the goal in terms of the shot, and the defender is coming across. I'm going to defend him the most, because he's dragged it wide and he shouldn't have done. Yeah. But also, if he had hit that on target, there's also a great chance it would have just been blocked by the defender anyway. The only thing, and also I think the thing is with that one, is we wouldn't even be talking about that Rob Street miss really, or we wouldn't be talking about it with this much kind of a negative tone if it wasn't for the previous missed chances.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. So I don't want to kind of go on at him immediately, but at the same time, he's probably going to be putting that on target. But again, he's played 33 league minutes up until yesterday.
Yeah.
And
he should be fresh, Charlie. He should be fresh and ready to
go. Sure. So I don't want to be jumping on his. I don't want to jump on any of their backs, but no. I definitely think that if we are talking criticism, not that any individual should always be getting criticism, but if we are going to be talking constructive criticism, I would probably be aiming it more at Joven than I would at Rob Street. And I think that's probably the kind of commonplace sort of argument from a lot of Lincoln fans today.
Yeah, again, we'll come on to this after the break, but just to wrap up, I mean, yeah, after that, the game kind of petered out, and you said we'd be talking about Lewis Brunt again. He should have been off the pitch. The challenge, I think it was on Joven? Because it was just before he went off, wasn't it? He pulled him back. Yeah, it was. I think it was on Joven.
Yeah, it was.
So he pulls him back, and it's a blatant yellow card. The referee doesn't even give a free kick. I think it was he completely bottled it. Knew that he'd have to send him off, and just didn't give anything at all. Which I think, it doesn't change the result if he goes off the pitch. But Jesus Christ, it was frustrating.
It was. It's a second yellow card. It just is as simple as that. But I don't know. I'm not gonna kind of get held up on that one too much. But I didn't think the referee had a great second half, if I'm honest. I thought inconsistency started to show. And the problem is when you set the tone early on of making it a little bit stop-starting with some of the soft fouls, well, then at some point you probably start regretting that decision and then realising that, okay, maybe I need to stop it because, cold night in Wrexham. You probably want it to be running around a little bit more than stopping for a free kick every 30 seconds.
Absolutely. The commentator was very quick to remind us of that all night last night about how cold it was. It
was actually, wasn't
he? Yeah. But, look, I mean, ultimately, game peters out. We've lost after a very good performance yet again. It's the second time in a week, or second time in 4 days. And I just think it was... You don't mind it to a point where you're playing top of the league and second in the league. However, when you've had two solid performances like that, you just kind of look at it and go, when is something going to drop for us? When are we going to get the break? When are we going to have, the cross going off a defender? It just seemed like there was a combination of poor form and bad luck last night. which ultimately cost us something. I mean, listening to Skibala's post-match, I think it was clear that he was frustrated with things. He was obviously with the better team. He was quite respectful to Wrexham. They were a decent side. They're obviously where they are for a reason. Although I think Chris was talking about expected points last week. Was it Chris or was it Gaz? Gaz was talking about expected points, wasn't
it was yeah.
Yeah. So, their expected points are, well, they'd have them at 17th, I think it was at that point.
It's lower, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, they're outperforming themselves at the moment. Whether that will come to pass and they will drop down a little bit, I don't know. It was just a frustrating evening all around. And hopefully, a little bit of a break from the league, we can put it right. But, I mean, yeah, Skibala was clearly frustrated with what he said. He said, we have to score and we need to take chances. And I think that's essentially what everybody's currently saying at the minute. There's no other way to put it, is there?
No, there isn't. And it's so frustrating. And it's frustrating because we've just missed chances. It is literally, like you say, it is just as simple as that. We've done everything right up until that final ball into the back of the net. Jesus, we stopped Wrexham from scoring. Yeah. The only goal they got was literally a lucky bounce off Tendai Derico. And obviously we don't know what would have happened with the last 20 minutes of the game and all of this. Get that. But we stopped them from playing their game. We played our game and we played it well.
Yeah.
But we just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And like I say, it started to become a little bit of a recurring theme. I'm more than happy to always defend our strikers as long as I can at least see something from them. Last night, with those missed chances, it just became a little bit indefensible in the moment.
Yeah, so I mean, look, we'll come on to that in just a second. We've got. I just wanted to touch on Phil Parkinson's comments. Basically, I think he agreed with pretty much everything we've said. He said that it was a tough game. They had to grind it out, really dig in and be resolute. And he said, we did have more chances towards the end to make it happen, or to extend the lead. I think that was just because we were trying to commit and potentially try and get something out of the game. But yeah, overall, a frustrating evening. One that we're going to have to put to bed quite quickly as we focus on the FA Cup on Saturday. But we are going into a quick break. We'll see the other side of it when we'll have a conversation that I don't think either of us are particularly looking forward to. But it's going to be about strikers. So we'll see you the other side of the break.
Hi, YouTube.
Hello, YouTube. Are we all well? Who's in tonight? Mark's in. Flossy Tops is in. Steve's in. That's a good question, actually. We'll probably have a chat about that when we talk about strikers.
I did see that one. I was going to save that one. Yeah, that looked good.
Yeah, Harry's in. Anne-Marie's in. Played well, just couldn't take chances. There we go. And, of course, Stu's in. And Stu's being a house. So, right. Okay, we'll come back in. And there we go. Thank you to our sponsors for the week. Don't know who the ads are for again, but there we go. So, right, time to have a somewhat difficult discussion, and it's around strikers. It always seems to be around strikers with Lincoln City leading up to Christmas. Now, can you remember, Charlie, the last game or the last time one of our named strikers scored?
6 games ago.
It was Stockport exactly a month ago. Yeah, in the league, that is, of course.
Yeah,
obviously we're not counting the Man City kids game.
I was there for that one. I think it's my fault because I'm there. The score when I'm there.
So yeah, it's exactly a month ago our strikers scored in the league. Now it doesn't quite ring of December 2022 when we scored 1 goal all month for the whole team, but I think it's fairly concerning. Now the past few games that we've had against Wrexham, we had 14 shots, 1 on target. Against Wickham, 14 shots, 6 on target, and we scored 2. Exeter, 14 shots, 3 on target. Nobody scored in that game. Bristol Rovers, 12 shots, 3 on target. We scored 1. Northampton, 11 shots, 5 on target, and we scored 2. So the question is, what needs to change at the minute? And we've only got a month until we can get extra personnel in. We've got 4 fit strikers. We've got one who's just coming back from injury, and we've got one who's, a way off, according to Scabella after the game last night. We were all really excited about that at the start of the season. We thought, cool, we've got some depth. We know, we've got some ability. We're going to be able to chop and change. We're going to have some, 5, 6, potentially 6 strikers. It's going to be amazing. So is it confidence? Is it style? I did say Bailey looks like he's more up for playing that kind of in behind role. And we've seen it work. We saw it against Peterborough. We didn't see him score, but we saw him with some fantastic moves. Against Wickham, I think as well, there were a few moments where passes were made where we could potentially have a shot. I know Ben House is really guilty of that quite late on in the game, where he played it essentially straight into 3 or 4 Wickham defenders. What do you think's going on, and what do you think that if there is a quick change to be made, what do you think it could be? And I know the obvious answer is there isn't, but yeah, what do you reckon?
Do you know what? Obviously, so much he just wants to go get personnel in January, but I also feel that that's a bit of a cop out. The thing is, I hate as standard judging strikers purely off goal scoring, right? And I'm not saying that to try and be edgy. I'm not saying that 20 goal a season strikers are awful or anything like that. But I'm saying that I don't care if a striker goes ahead and gets 20 goals, as long as they are contributing in some way to the team scoring more, even if it isn't just them as a focal striker.
Yep.
For example, if you look back, and I'm going to use a Premier League example with this, because I think it's probably one of the most pertinent examples over the past kind of decade. Premier League, Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, you had Roberto Firmino in the middle. He never got the top goal scorer award in the league or anything like that. But what he did was he was a facilitator for the wingers in Mane and Salah to be able to bag literally every single week. And I think Salah got something like 34 goals in a season, or 32 goals in a season because of it. And Firmino was always either dragging defenders away, creating opportunities, creating triangles so that the wingers could go ahead and play. And then the kind of attacking 10/8 that was in behind them as well could also create opportunities. Brilliant. And I'm more than happy for Lincoln City to have a similar situation and a striker who does the exact same sort of thing. Ben House might not be the most natural goal scorer, and he might not be. I still think he's a 20 goal a season striker, personally. In the right team and in the right environment, I still think he can hit 20 goals a season. Okay. But in all fairness, a couple of seasons back, he got 14 in the season. We had 6 penalties that year. He didn't take them. He took them. He's a 20 goal a season striker. Yeah. But the only thing is, I'm more than happy for us to have a striker like Ben House, who maybe does a lot of the hard work and creates opportunities for other people, and that's absolutely fine. And he may not ever be at the absolute top of the leaderboards in terms of goal scoring. I don't care, as long as the team is still scoring. The problem is, we're creating chances for our strikers, and the strikers aren't putting them away. Now we have a problem. So me saying I don't mind if the strikers aren't 20 goal a season strikers, the caveat to that is always as long as they're doing something else. Yeah. If they're maybe doing a little bit less of the other stuff, which kind of seems to be the way that it's gone so far this season, but then are also effectively failing when they're in front of goal, then we have a serious issue. Yeah. I'm more than happy with Joe, and I'm going to pick on Jovan for the minute because he is everybody's scapegoat this week, and he has been now for the last couple of games. But for Jovan, he's creating opportunities, more than happy for it. Brilliant. He's got to be putting his own ones away. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit pointless having him on the field for a full 90 minutes or for a full 80 minutes. I wouldn't be too surprised at all to see him get dropped now.
No, well, I was going to say, so Keith's made a point here that I was going to make as well, and it just says that Skeebs needs to take Jovan out of the firing line for a while, but it's not just him; it's all the strikers. And I do agree, and I will touch on that in a minute. But I think your point there about we don't need a 20 goal a season striker right now. We need the ability to put chances away. Last season, I think every single one of our outfield players scored at least one goal. I don't think I've seen that from any club. I don't think I've ever seen that from another club over the course of a full season, and that was in the league as well. I think that was purely in the league. I think every single outfield player scored in the league who was eligible, obviously.
And I also believe that this season we're leading the way in terms of number of players that have scored again, and that in itself is a great thing. I love that about us. I love the fact that we can get goals from anywhere on the pitch. Some people see that as a negative. I don't. I absolutely love that. You're not
reliant on one person at that point. You're not reliant on, and I'm going to bring the name up because his name is all around everywhere at the moment, but you're not completely reliant on Joe Taylor or somebody like that. Now, to kind of back up what you've said, Chris has made a spreadsheet because, of course, Chris has made a spreadsheet. And it is a very good sheet that we're going to just run through some numbers at the moment so that we can see, because you've said about you don't mind if somebody else is creating chances for somebody else as long as they're putting them away. So let's look at goal involvements goal involvements for 90 minutes. So essentially, if somebody has either assisted or scored a goal, how many times do they do that? Every 90 minutes. So, in terms of league appearances for Lincoln City, Ben House, so this is over his Lincoln City career as opposed to just this season. So, Ben House, 19 goals, 4 assists. Goal involvements per 90 minutes, he's on 0.37. Jovan Makama, he has 1,881 minutes, has 3 goals, 1 assist. His goal involvement's on 0.19 per 90 minutes. Freddie Draper, 1,560 minutes, 4 goals, 0.23. Bailey Cadamartri, 654 minutes, 3 goals, 0.41. So, on average, our strikers, between them, will probably get 1 goal a game if all 4 of them are on the pitch, and they will be involved in a goal. Now, Chris has also put together some numbers for some other players in the division. So we have Richard Kone. He's on 1,620 minutes. Again, in his current club, this is not just this season. 12 goals, 3 assists. 0.83. So every 0.83 games, Richard Kone is going to be involved in a goal, according to his stats. Kyle Joseph is 7 goals, 6 assists, 0.43. Malik Mothersville is on 0.64 with 8 goals and 6 assists. And Ricky J. Jones is on 0.37. And Jay Stansfield is on 0.48. So we don't have a player at the moment with those kind of numbers. Chris has also put in the man of all of the rumours, Mr. Joe Taylor. And he's put in Joe Taylor's numbers for when he was at Lincoln. So Joe Taylor, when he was at Lincoln, had 1,485 minutes, 10 goals, 3 assists, and his goal involvement was 0.79 goals per game. So essentially, Joe Taylor was more than doubling Ben House's goal involvements. Now, I know it's not like for like because it's not in one season, but it goes to show that even if he's not scoring them, he will be somewhere involved, in a goal. But I don't know, it's slightly worrying with those numbers, isn't it? I mean,
do you know what?
Go on.
Yes and no. I'm a little bit, when you look at those numbers, and I want to pick up on one particular thing, because we can talk about stats as much as we want, but as far as I'm concerned, stats are only as good as the sample size as well. Now, Ben House, out of that whole list of players that we've just spoken about, for the league-only appearances for their current club, Ben House has played the most amount of minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so out of all of the Lincoln players and the ones who are the current League One top goal scorers, that are sort of 25 and under strikers, right? Ben House played more minutes than all of them. The player who has got closest to him in terms of minutes is 22-year-old Ricky J. Jones. Okay, Ricky J. Jones has also got the exact same goal involvements per 90 of 0.37. Next up is Jay Stansfield. Now, he has got a better record, 0.48. Okay,
but he also cost 15 million quid.
There we go. So,
yeah,
actually, I think, look, it's a spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet that you could quite literally make an argument in any which direction that you want the numbers to make the argument. Okay, I can sit here and use it to defend Ben House like I just have. It's not really too much defending of Jovan McCarver at the moment with it. And it makes Joe Taylor look fantastic. But obviously, we don't know what Joe Taylor would have been like this season or if he played as many minutes as Ben House and all of this. Now, you can say, and I think it's a valid enough argument, a number 9 knows where the back of the goal is, no matter what season it is. And I get that. I 100% do. So there is that argument, especially considering, we've not moved divisions or anything like that. But the division has definitely gotten tougher this year as well. So there's kind of that to look at. It's difficult. And you know what? Just talking about Jay Stansfield there, £15 million. Now, as far as I'm aware, let me just check. I don't know if it's been done as of. In fact, it has. Company's House today, Lincoln City have gone ahead and put more funding into the football club. So if you just bear with me a moment, I'll be able to give you the exact numbers.
Well, we knew we knew that was coming from Liam's interview the other day. But yeah, the number is.
The number is, just bear with me a moment because I've got to do some maths because, I'm really not a mathematician. Oh, God, what is that? 257 to 500. Sorry, this is really boring. Just over £1 million. £1,030,000. Okay. Now, that is planned investment. That's obviously something that Liam had said beforehand. That's planned investment and all that. And bearing in mind, again, we're beating the drum of this, but that is for us to stay sustainable. And we will lose £3 million again. The accounts will be out in January, February, whenever they are. And, it won't be any shock to see us lose another £3 million. And this is us, having to put that money in to plug that gap. Now, everybody, and I get this, everybody wants us to have a 20-goal a season striker or more, a 25-goal a season striker.
They cost.
We're not paying £15 million for Jay Stansfield, first of all. No. Nor are we probably going to end up paying £500,000 for a Joe Taylor. Now, that also doesn't mean that we're just going to be stuck with academy products for the next 5 years. But it means that we've got to try and be careful and consolidate. Now, in the summer, we were lauding the transfer window. What an amazing transfer window it is. And we still are. Most players that we brought in the transfer window, we're really happy with. And there is now probably one gap at the moment where people are saying, we might need to look there in January. Honestly, that's fine. I'm really happy with that overall.
Well,
okay, we might need a new striker in January. It just shows how good we've done everywhere else. That's the only thing we're going to need. And does it probably mean that we will? Yeah. So what? That's nice.
It's the one area, and it's what the window's for as well, isn't it? It's to strengthen, it's to build. Personally, I think we'll probably go in for a central defender as well. But yeah, the overriding thought at the moment is we need a striker, despite the fact that we have 5 on the books. So let's talk about Jovan then. For me, he wasn't the only player that was spurning chances last night. Bailey Cadamartri had a decent chance. Jack Moylan had multiple chances. Admittedly, a lot of those were from distance. I would have expected to have seen at least one of those hit the target from Jack, but they didn't. Rob Street obviously missed the chance that we spoke about, and then Jovan missed 2 pretty much. Well, one was gilt-edged, one was maybe not quite so much. I don't think it is fair, though, that he's the sole focus of a lot of people's eye. Like, that seems to me to be the problem. Like, we it's not our job to come on here and defend a player. Like, we're not just going to sit here and go, well, they're brilliant because I like them and you're all wrong. Like, that's not what this podcast's always ever been about. The fact is that, like, he's not immune from criticism. That's the same as any other player in the squad. Personally, as Keith said, I think he deserves, well, I think he needs a spell on the bench or just away from the squad just so he can get his focus right. Because to me, it maybe seems a bit like a confidence thing. If he's overthinking that, you watch that, maybe the second one more so, you watch it as it comes down, it's almost like he's overthinking it as it reaches his feet. He's like, should I hit this first time? Oh, no, I'm going to let it, but oh no, it's gone. It's that quicker decision that he's got to make.
Yeah.
It happened earlier in the season as well. He was getting absolute pelters. He went away, he came back, and he scored a couple. 6 weeks ago, there was big chunks of the fan base that were delighted to see him come back. And as we spoke about, I spoke about with Gaz last week, it was obvious different sections of the fan base, but the change in tone to me is shocking. Like the amount of hate that can be thrown at a young lad on the flip of a coin because he's not scored in a football match. He's not shit. I think that's the thing where, if a player doesn't score a goal, they're not shit. We've said it before, we will doubtless say it again, but nobody gets given a contract to play professional football if you're shit. Like, the club can see something in him. He's still developing. I think the harsh question at the moment from me is the focus on Jovan's development potentially costing the club points and therefore the potential of promotion when he hits a poor run of form and we stick with him.
I don't think this is just Marco Skubala trying to improve an asset by playing him. I think it's because he genuinely believes that he can bring something to the game that maybe the other strikers can't. There's potentially a reason, bearing in mind, why Bailey Canamartri isn't starting as many games as people want him to. We're not on the training ground week in, week out. We'd love to be. I'd absolutely love to be. But, we're not. And look, the thing is, Jovan was shit for half a second yesterday. And that's combined. Should have put the ball on target. He knows that. He's going to come away from this knowing that. Doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that he needs to be attacked for the whole of his game, but it also is. It's fair enough that there is criticism laid at him, exactly like you were just saying, and I understand that, and it's frustrating, and it is. There was so much frustration. There was more frustration last night than there was, honestly, in so many other games. We could have quite easily felt that same level of frustration when we went 2-0 down to Portsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
With the total opposite reaction. But last night, it was really frustrating because we knew as fans, we should have got something from that game, and it hurt. And the thing is, actually, as much as that's a negative, you can flip that around to make that such a positive, because the teams and the fans that feel like that are the ones that do well season after season, are the ones that progress, because they know we're doing this, we're playing really well, this is happening game in, game out. The results, they're not there at the moment, and they haven't been for the last 2 games. 2 games that we've lost in a row. Yeah. It's not like we're on a 10-game losing streak.
No, and I think as well that there is perspective there of it is 2 games, and it is against the top 2 teams in the division at the moment. Watch Jovan bag a hat-trick at Crawley, says Stu. Yeah, we'll come on to Crawley briefly in a second, but I genuinely feel for Jovan at the minute, because we've seen flashes of what he can do. And like I said, when he came back into the side earlier this season, after a little spell away, he was genuinely looking pretty damn good. Like, I remember we had chats discussions in our group chat, which said, for swathes of matches, Jovan was player of the match without actually scoring. But right now, I don't know what the fix is. our strikers aren't scoring goals they haven't done for a month. We're not in the dire straits that we were in December 2022, but we're not putting chances away. Like, what do we change the goals out on the training ground for 5-a-side goals so we can just get used to trying to shoot at a smaller area? Like, what can we do at the moment? There's just nothing. There is no immediate fix to this, and I think ultimately, if there was, everybody would be a football manager. But yeah, it's trying to find an answer to a question that doesn't involve the January transfer window is a very, very tricky one to deal with at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But let's look more positively. Let's hope that come January, we're not even thinking about the January transfer window, and let's hope instead we're thinking of an away draw at Man City or Arsenal or Man U, because this weekend, second round of the FA Cup.
It is. What for the longest time for a Lincoln City fan was the Christmas shopping weekend is now indeed the FA Cup second round. Of course, it has been it's been the Christmas shopping weekend for the past 2 seasons. But yeah, look, FA Cup second round away at Crawley. We owe them at least one for the dismal away performance a few weeks ago. Obviously, Crawley only winning 4 times in the league this season. One of them was against us, and they actually won at the weekend, didn't they? It was Rotherham. That was a bit of a surprise result, I thought, given that they're not very good. But yeah,
well,
so
neither are Fatty Dum Dum's Rotherham. I mean, neither are Steve Emmons' Rotherham.
So yeah, okay, Crawley then. What are we expecting? Are we expecting? I mean, let's long and short of it. Are we expecting the same thing to happen as happened in the league game?
No, never expecting us to lose 3-0. Look, I think we're gonna try and give them something. It'll be, obviously it'll be a downgrade in terms of ground and such from what Chesham was. For those that do try. No, that's harsh. Crawley always just seem to be the whipping boys on any podcast that I do, just because they seem to be the easiest sort of scapegoats. No, look, I'm hoping, obviously, that we're going to be able to put on a much better performance. The team selection is going to be interesting. I wouldn't be too surprised to see us experiment a little bit, but obviously we're also going to want that victory because this game could be quite big for us. The chance to be in the third round for the first time in a few years, and the chance to hopefully get a nice draw against maybe a Premier League side, something like that going forward. So that's very much what we're now going to be hoping for. So I can expect us to experiment a little bit with side, but then also put out a team to win as well, and hopefully just play a little bit sort of better and more rigid football than what we did do in the away leg there. Even though, in all fairness, we just capitulated after going 1 goal down. That was really the only reason. So hopefully we can just be a little bit more defensively solid whilst also being a little bit better in front of goal than what we have been the last couple of games. So the last couple of games, we did score 2 on Saturday, but obviously those 2 very much weren't enough. So yeah, it's kind of going to be an interesting game with that kind of viewpoint, and there's going to be a lot of intangibles I feel going into it of to just how the players are going to be feeling revved up, obviously, to try and go out there and right the wrong that did happen only, about a month and a half ago. The only kind of thing is, let's just hope that we can maybe just hold them to a draw and get a replay it. So wait, no replays. So yeah, obviously we'll have to make sure we do it on the day, but for those that do travel, enjoy.
Indeed, absolutely. So look, yeah, it's I think it's just going to be, ideally, a bit of a break from the league where we can just reset and go, okay, cool. We'll get this game out of the way. We'll hopefully get a decent tie. But let's focus on the league after it. But then, of course, we've only got 3 days until we're in league action next again. So, yeah, Saturday, Tuesday, the schedule at the moment is pretty brutal. No, thank goodness that the Premier League decided to cut replays in rounds that they're not involved in so that we don't have to pad our schedule out anymore. Oh, dear. Come on, Charlie.
What was that? Sorry, Ben? Okay. Well, Ben is now gone.
Now Charlie's got... No, let's no, so look, it's... I don't know. Like, I just hope that we don't carry on what could potentially be a a dip into what could be a poor run of form. I don't think we will. I think, prediction would be that I'd probably think we'd comfortably win on Saturday. So watch us lose. But, I just hope that we can, have a quick turnaround from Tuesday night and then get a decent result. So we will hopefully have a Crawley preview on the YouTube channel. I've yet to record it because apparently Crawley content creators are like unicorns. They don't exist. And if there is...
Unicorns don't exist?
Well, there might be one, but I've not had an email back from them yet. So, yeah, look, we'll end on a bit of a positive because don't want the weekend. I don't want this episode to be a big downer. But the Imps under 18s are into the FA Youth Cup third round after a last gasp win, according to Gaz's headline. So Denny Oliver scoring away at Bolton and getting the 89th minute winner. Cracking result for the under 18s. Here's hoping they can continue a bit of a run in the FA Youth Cup, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely that. A great performance by all accounts, as well as obviously overall in terms of the result. Now, I'm sure if you want to know anything about the game, have a little chat with Chris Keneally, because he is Mr. Academy Man. He messaged me the other week after we did a podcast, and I kind of made the same sort of comment then, and he's more than happy to have the title. But no, 3-2, wasn't it? Great result. Like I say, great performance. All accounts as well, which is it's just really positive. And it's always nice to see for the young Imps as well. So hopefully there might be a few of those that do come through in a few years' time as well to get the same sort of vitriol that Jovan McCarm is getting. Hopefully not. But and obviously it might be interesting to see as well come Saturday whether Zayn Okoro gets an opportunity in the FA Cup again.
I imagine he probably will do, even if it is a case of, again, another appearance on the bench to give him a bit more experience. But that's probably a good spot to wrap up the podcast. This has been episode number 336 of the Stacey West podcast. I think it's Gaz and Chris will be back with you on Sunday to have a discussion about the Crawley game and look ahead to Rotherham away next week. So, only one thing is left to be said. Until next week, up the Imps.
Up the Imps.